Hi everyone, welcome to our Kickstarter Live of Breast Pumping Basics with LaShanda Dandrich of Uptown Ranch Cooperative. We are here live from Hatch NYC. We have a live audience as well over here, you just can't see them. I'm Eliza, I am the head of marketing for Lilu, and our CTO Lilu is behind the camera. You can't see him, but he'll be answering any questions that you have if you're watching online. And LaShanda's yes, so please ask questions. And here too. LaShanda has been working with us for a long time, and she's a wonderful IBCLC. And yeah, she's going to talk to us about basics of pumping and any other kind of feeding questions that you might have as well. So,
hi everyone, here and at home. Like Eliza said, I'm a lactation consultant at IBCLC. I've been doing this, and just to give a little background, because I've been doing this for about 5 years officially as a lactation consultant, but I say I was birthed as a lactation consultant after I had my daughter, who's hiding in the back. She'll probably be at the candy bar as well. So I know we're going to be talking about pumping today, but I do want to recommend, for those of you who are home here, I see the bellies here, and I hope your bellies at home as well. Really highly recommend taking a breastfeeding class, a prenatal breastfeeding class, where you learn about establishing your milk supply in the beginning, of course, how to latch your baby and all that stuff you hear about, but really the first few weeks postpartum is really about establishing a milk supply. So pumping really doesn't come into play in the beginning if everything is going well, meaning that we're going to latch baby, it's feeling comfortable. Breastfeeding is going to feel comfortable, right? Not maybe at first, but the goal is to help you get comfortable. And really frequently feeding that baby to build that supply. So in the beginning, you both are working together to learn this whole feeding situation, right? So pumping, we usually don't recommend to start really until about 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks in. So again, no real need. When it comes in earlier, or if there are situations when there's a separation with mommy and baby, we all know sometimes babies go to the NICU for whatever reason, or mom has to be taken care of, then we're gonna talk about bringing in a pump to help stimulate your breast and build your milk supply. But again, in the beginning, really what we're going for is really mommy and baby latching and building a supply. But because we live in a Western world, Western society, pumping usually comes into play at some point, usually when we're going back to work or when we're leaving baby, right? So again, when you go home, nothing really to think or worry about doing in the sense of pumping, but you do probably want to check in with your insurance companies to see when you're eligible to get your free pump. And I hope you all know that you're eligible for a pump from your insurance company. So call them up, tell them, what's that process. Some companies give you at 37 weeks, then we'll send it out to you or something, but you can get it. The popular pump brands, I'm sure, whenever when we become pregnant, everyone gives you an opinion on everything. Right? So, and everyone's talking about this pump and this one worked for me, and it's really, there are 3 kind of popular brands out there that have done the research, are very popular, and their motors are really good. So those are your Modellas, I'm sure you've heard of, Spectra, and Amida. So those are usually the popular ones. So meaning when you call your insurance company, hopefully the pump that they're going to be giving you is from one of those companies. If not, you can take it, or you can ask them, if I purchase one of those, will I get reimbursed? But those are usually, I have the Spectra here just because it's the lightest one to carry for me to come to the demo. No preference of. So again, Spectra, Amida, Modella are the popular ones. What you end up getting from your insurance company, or what you end up choosing, or they all have their pros and cons. And you can talk to friends or consult lactation consultants or their opinions on it, but it's really what's going to end up working for you. I just wanted to go through what we're looking for when we're pumping. So they all come, like I said, they all have a motor, right? They come with the machine. There are different models within each company. So you'll see which one works for you. So you'll get the machine. They have all these buttons on them, or sometimes they have dials, and those are going to be controlling the cycle, meaning how quickly your nipple is pulled in and out of the machine, and then the suction, meaning how deep it's being pulled. Just like latching your baby shouldn't hurt and it should feel comfortable, the same thing with your pump. So you'll see these numbers, they all have these different settings. The higher you go doesn't mean the more milk you're gonna get out, right? It should always be what's comfortable to you. So again, if somebody's saying like, oh, I use this, doesn't really matter, right? So again, you'll see those buttons, and luckily we live in a society where we can Google everything. You can go to the company's website and look and see, and there'll be a manual as well. But if you're not understanding, but like this one says cycle and vacuum. Pretty simple. So you can just play around with it, and you want to play around with it to see what works for your body. They all have a tubing system, right? And a valve system. That's going to be controlling the suction and the cycling, right? And then there's the bottle that's hooked up to the flange. So the flange is the part that touches your body, right? I have my handy dandy little breast here. So the flange is the part that touches your body, and your nipple is going to go into the flange. So this is the part that you really want to pay special attention to, because there are different size flanges. Right? So everyone, you get it, you get the box, you open it up, we put it on, and then we think like it's supposed to do its magic, right? But the flanges you'll see on the sides have different diameters, so you'll want to know what works. What we're looking for is the nipple to move in and out of this tunnel, the tunnel of the flange, freely. There should never be any friction there. If there is, it's going to hurt, and it's going to stop the flow of your milk. So you'll want to take a note. So when you put it on, you're going to see from the suctioning that nipple is going to be pulled into, right? And it's going to expand, right? So you may put it on, and in about 30 seconds to a minute, it may be moving freely. After that, it could start to expand and rub. That flange is going to be too small for you. So then you would have to go up a size. So I'll show you my smaller one, right? So you can see the diameter is smaller, right? And then this one's bigger. So you would have to go up a size. If you put one on and too much of your areola is being pulled in, right? And you're getting tightness on the areola part, that's going to stop the flow of your milk. So that flange would be too small for you. And I mentioned this first because this is usually the questions we got. The number one question when moms start pumping is, they'll call lactation where I've seen you for the baby, and you call me back and you're like, I pumped and I didn't get anything. And I'm going to say, let's check that flange fit, right? Because that's usually the number one culprit. And remember, we're not symmetrical, right? We say we're sisters, not twins. Right? So you really want to make sure, like, even, you're pumping and this one can feel fine, the other one, so you may be smaller on one side and bigger on the other side. So that you may have to change that out too.
And multiple flanges?
Yeah. So you get two usually. So the standard size is usually at 24 millimeters. So Spectrum makes it 24. I know that Amita make their standard size is 25. Why they do different patterns. But 24 is 25. And then they usually send you a smaller. No, that's a lie. They usually send you a bigger one. So they go up to 27. Right, so they'll send you two, but there are smaller, so this is a 21, right? And there are bigger that they go to 30, 32, 36, right? So, and then there's also something called a pump and pow. So this, you can see it's angled differently, because again, we are not symmetrical. Our breasts don't look like mannequins or what you see like in the movies and in the magazines, right? So this company actually made this flange, and you can see it's a little tilted because sometimes if our breasts are a little saggier, and that's not a bad word. We just have different size breasts, right, and shaped breasts. So this flange was made. So sometimes, I have clients that aren't getting anything from this, or usually what happens is that they call and they get a lot of leakage on the bottom. So that's when I recommend this. Meaning that there are tons of different items out there that people have thought of because there have been issues with the standard, sizes and such. So if you're ever having questions about what's going on with your pumping, right, or your supply, the milk that's coming out, you should really check in with the lactation consultant and have us go through it with you. And that is for pumping in general. So I have many times where clients will say, I've been pumping, but I'm not getting X amount of milk. And then automatically we think that it's a supply issue, right? The pump, even though there are many people, like I said, there are many devices out there, there are many things out there. You have many companies that are always trying to improve on the pump. It's still a machine, right? And that's why in the beginning I was talking about really knowing, you play around with it to know how to make it work for you to feel comfortable and get the milk out. But it's a machine, they break down, right? The motors can go, things can happen. So it's never an indication of what's truly going on in your breast. So if I have a client, again, I've seen her with the baby, we've lashed, the baby's doing well, and she calls me and she says, well, now I'm pumping and I'm going back to work, or I'm at work and I'm not getting enough milk. And then they worry about, does that mean that my baby isn't getting that milk? And then it's not necessarily. I'm going to go through your flange. Is your flange fitting correctly? I'm going to go through the pump. Is the pump working, right? So again, it could be. So if any time, and obviously you don't know this now, but you'll feel the suction of it. And if you feel that it's not suctioning the same way, call the company. They have return policies, they have exchange policies. So you want to get a new one. Speaking of which, when I said getting a new pump from your insurance company. So if you were thinking of, or if somebody has said to you, oh, I have a pump that I'm not using anymore, I'll give it to you. We don't recommend sharing pumps. And even if, I don't know if this is your first baby, second baby, if this is your first baby, and then you have another baby, I recommend those clients to still get another pump, a new pump, because you're entitled to a new pump with every
Why do you not recommend sharing?
Because the motor, one, hygiene. So even though the tubings are meant to not have milk backing up, you just never know. Sometimes it can happen. And even though there are friends and family, we don't know people's hygiene and how cleanly they are. So hygienic issues, one. Two, the motor. So if that mom had that pump and she was pumping every day, going back to work for 2-3 months, it may not be as efficient as a new pump. So again, especially if I get a call and I'm going through with my client and she says, well, I got the pump from my sister. I'm like, you need to get a new pump, right? And sometimes that's the only trick. So you always want a new pump because at least you know that, again, if it's not working, it's maybe a manufacturer issue. It's not, was it not working because it's just been used. So the personal pumps are just meant for kind of a short-term use. You're using it when you're away from baby. So when you're at work, you're using it for a few hours, or on the weekends, so when you're going away. Have you heard of hospital grade pumps?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because some people are renting those out. What do you think about that?
So a hospital grade pump is one that you would usually see in the hospital on the floor, or people rent them. You don't need a hospital grade pump unless there is an issue where there is a separation between mommy and baby. So usually hospital grade pumps are being brought into you at bedside if you're in the hospital because baby has been taken away into the NICU and we need to stimulate, right? So baby's not there to stimulate and we need to stimulate. So that's when hospital grade pumps come in. And of course, if you're leaving the hospital and baby's at the hospital, we need to keep stimulating our breast. So those motors are built for multiple users, so they're a little stronger. So that's why we recommend those. But there's no need to have a long-term hospital grade for long-term use, unless on mom's end, we do a history and we find that there may be some indications that her milk supply wouldn't come in fully. and that's our hormonal issue. So our moms that may have PCOS or have had breast reductions, so something surgical or hormonal is going on when we're not sure that she can make a full milk supply. So in those cases, I have recommended renting a hospital grade pump for a certain amount of time to help build that supply. But if baby's with you, we're always going to go back to baby first and figure out what's the culprit. So, and then just by choice, some women will rent a hospital grade pump and leave it at work so they don't have to carry a pump back and forth. So that's always an option too. But, then you're paying that rental every month. So again, if it's not needed, it's not 100% needed right now unless you talk with the lactation consultant and find that there are some things going on and you just choose to rent a hospital grade pump.
A friend of mine has rented a hospital grade pump, not because she needed it, but she found that she got way more milk.
She got a little bit more. Yeah, so again, the motors are a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
So some women have found that there's a difference. And like I said, you'll see, obviously you haven't done that, but you'll see once you get your pump, what's the feeling, and you can try it. And if you're getting more and it makes it more efficient for you throughout your day, that's always a choice. But again, I like to be cost effective, and if you can make your personal pump work for you, then again, there's really no need. So you have your pump, you have the motors, you have all the buttons. Like I said, there's a tubing system and usually a valve system. So this Spectra has a system that comes off. We have some pieces here on the Medellas. I actually have the Medella here. Like this is their valve system, right? So they're all different. When you are cleaning your pump, so the other thing is cleaning, right? Because obviously it's going to be touching live food, milk. You want to clean it. You want to take off all those pieces. You do not, though, have to clean the tubing. You never want to clean the tubing or submerge the tubing in water. So you would just detach, like I did, the bottle from here. Where's my bottle go? Right. You detach the bottle from here, and then only the parts that touch your body and milk get cleaned, right? If you ever see that there's condensation, so this is for any pump you have, if you ever see that there's condensation in the tube, you want to turn the pump on, but don't connect it to the bottle. You're just going to let kind of the air push all that moisture through, but you never have to wash it. If you have pets at home, like cats, right, that like to play with things, right, and you notice that your pump isn't working, you want to check the tubing because your cat could have got a little happy and bit it, right, or nicked it. So those things have happened too. Again, meaning that if something is a little wonky, you always want to blame the pump first before you blame your tube. Right? So you're only cleaning the parts that touch your body, and again, so when you get the pump, you want to go through it and see, like take it apart and play around with it to see, and you want to when you're cleaning it, you want to make sure you're taking everything off. These are the membranes. For this one, it looks like this. For the Medella I showed you, it looks like that. So that little white thing comes off too. And again, Amita, they have, Amitas are like this, but they're clear, which I think is cruel because then you end up losing, so you can't see them. But also, you'll see like that opens up a little bit. It can get a little slit in it, and then it decreases the suction. So again, anytime something's a little off, you want to check. And you'll see the manufacturer's suggestions on how often you should change these, how often you're pumping, what you should change out your membranes and such. So go by their guidelines as well. Your dishwashers get nice and hot. So if you put them in the dishwasher, it's fine. You just let it air dry, and then you're putting it together and you're using it again and you're ready to go. You don't have to be so fancy with it. I know there are tons of things out there about, what is that word? That desanitizing. What is the word? You boil it, blanking. Sterilize. Desanitizer thing, the sterilizing, right? People get freaked out about the sterilizing. So after each pumping session, you want to wash with hot soap water, right? maybe the end of the night, every other night, you'll do a good sterilization, which is old-fashioned, boiling a big old pot of water, turning off the water, submerging everything in there for about 10 minutes. Or like I said, your dishwashers get pretty hot too. You don't need to get so worried about it. And especially, like I always say, New York City apartments, where you're putting all this stuff. Like, they have the sterilization systems and all that stuff. You can pass on it, right? So that is your basic pump parts, just the basics of it. How are we on time? Are we good? Okay. Any questions about that? About those things? Okay. So pretty basic and standard. Again, I showed you the Medela, the Spectra stuff, and the one that I was pulling over here. So there's also a manual pump. So if you don't want to get, again, you can see how it works for you, how your breast responds to a manual pump. Right? These sometimes I suggest throwing in your bag. Maybe you're going out to get your hair done. You're going to be away, but you may be missing a feed, right? But you don't want to bring your whole system. You can throw this right in a bag and hop into a private room and basically hand this, but manually release milk. So it doesn't always have to be just an electric pump. We have manuals out there.
Question about traveling on a long flight.
Mm-hmm.
You would recommend obviously taking your pump, even if the baby's with you.
Well, if you're on the flight,
yeah,
so Spectra actually has one of their models has batteries.
okay.
So that may be a question too. If you want to have, if you're going to be traveling a lot, you may want to get a pump that has the option to not be hooked up to a cord. And if you're traveling, you get to another country, you want to make sure you have the adapter, right? But on a flight, if baby's with you, you do have the right to feed, right? So I would say feed. If baby's sleeping, but you have the option to have the battery, then you're pumping with that. But most likely, it's probably going to be a manual.
So, no. So models don't have a battery and.
Not all.
Okay, but
But you do. Some of them do have the option. So whichever. Again, if you want to go research Spectra, Medela, or Meta and look at, so when you call your company, if whatever they're asking, whatever they're offering, you know which model in that brand that you want.
You. It's kind of a technical question, but do you know if the voltages for these things usually work internationally?
Yeah, and so and some of the companies, if you go on their site, they'll sell you the adapters, or they'll tell you which adapter to get. So that is all the technical stuff about pumping, right? The mechanical stuff. Yeah. So when, like I said, when you start pumping, no real need to. If breastfeeding is going well means that your baby's latching, right? If that's the goal, you want baby's latching, it feels comfortable. Baby's removing milk, and we know that from their diapers and their weight gain, right? Breastfeeding is established for you, but again, you want to start storing to go back to work, or you want to go out and get your toes done, right? God forbid, right? Take some time for yourself. Then you want to start pumping. In the beginning, I usually recommend pumping in the morning. In the morning, you'll notice you have more milk in your breast. Babies usually get a bigger feed, right? So you feed baby, maybe wait 10 or 20 minutes or so, and then go pump. So for the first week or so, it's gonna be like for play, right? We're not going for a number, right? It's never quantity, right? You wanna see what you get, especially when you first start doing it. So don't think like, oh, I have to get X, Y, Z, right? Everyone's different, right? So you pump, you can store it if that's whatever you get. Usually people pump in a bottle. I recommend pumping straight into the bottle, and then there's the bags out there. Then you pour it into a bag, so you can actually see. The bags sometimes get a little wonky if you pump right into the bag, because it doesn't sit flat, so the measurement looks a little wonky. But if you pump into the bottle, you know how much you get. You pour it into the bag, and then the next day you do the same thing. So waiting the time in between from when baby comes off kind of gives your body like oh, baby stopped feeding. Oh, now baby wants to feed again, so I'm gonna make more milk. So we kind of trick the body. So if you do it kind of like at the same time every day, you'll kind of trick the body like, oh, we have to make more milk at this time. And then you'll start to see, oh, I get X amount at this time. So that's how you start to gauge like how much you're getting.
Do you only do that tricking the body in the morning, or do you do that
whenever you're gonna pump? I would always recommend giving your body some time after baby has come off, right? So, but when you're first starting out, if you can kind of be consistent about doing it at the same time, like again, I suggest the morning because you have a bigger feed. Again, depending on when you start pumping, you'll notice your baby's attitude. They get a big feed, they'll give you a longer stretch between that morning feed and afternoon feed, so you can get the pumping in. You're pumping for 15, 20 minutes, that's all. So another question we usually get is, oh, my baby feeds for like a half an hour. Do I have to pump for half an hour? No, 15, 20 minutes tops on the pump. Remember, it's comfortable. Whatever you get in that session is whatever you get. There's no need to really go longer. If when baby comes off, when you're finished with that pumping session, if you still feel like there's milk in your breast, and I know this is kind of a hard concept now because you haven't gotten there, but you will start to feel like my breast feels fuller, and especially like in certain areas, you're like, oh, I feel that. You can continue for a little bit more, but you don't want to be going for a very long time. The pump, again, people are trying to do magical things with the pump, but it just kind of builds up pressure in the breast, right? To help the milk duct squirt that milk out, right? When babies get on, I can show you how your milk ducts will look inside your breast, right? When babies get on, they do a milking motion. I'll talk a little bit about hand expression, but we do a milking motion. The pump, again, just kind of, stimulates the nipple, moves out, and the nipple stimulation sets up the whole hormonal system to start milk flowing, right? But it kind of builds up pressure, and then the milk kind of gets squirted out. If you keep going, you're just going to increase the pressure in your breast, and then it can actually like shut down those kind of ducts in there. So, and we'll talk about the massage and compression. Right? So, but a 15, 20 minute pump is okay. When you're pumping to like store milk, or you want to like boost your milk supply, we recommend more frequent pumps than longer duration of a session. So more frequent sessions instead of a longer duration. Okay? So again, with your pumping and your stashing, if you're just doing one pump every morning, and let's say you do that for a month straight, you'll have 30 bags. And that's really your stash, right? And that's like a really good stash if you want to do that for 2 weeks straight, right? When we're, again, I'm talking in terms of going back to work and leaving baby. When we are back at work, what we pump on Monday is what we feed baby Tuesday. What we pump on Tuesday is what we feed baby Wednesday. So that's, baby is going to be getting fresh milk. The stash is really for, oh, I didn't get a chance to pump at work, right? So you can tell the sitter, take it to the daycare, an extra bag. When babies are going through a growth spurt, they may require a little bit more food. That's where your stash comes in. You can pull it, right? Or let's say you're at work and you had a really stressful day and you notice like, oh, I didn't get out as much at that feed as that pumping session as I usually do. That's when you pull from your stash, right? So I've heard many stories about these stashes that people have. Again, where are you storing this stuff? I like a little corner for my ice cream and my freezer. So like, too much milk is not that necessary, right?
So it's not like last in, first out with the milk, basically. You try to feed the baby the closest,
the freshest
milk
yes.
you have.
Yes.
Okay.
And so when you are pulling from your stash, though, that leads to this, you always want to pull from the oldest.
The oldest.
So let's say this is March. Let's say we had our babies in April. We start pumping in May, but now we're back at work in July. When you pull from that stash, you're going to pull May first. So you always use the oldest milk first. That makes sense, right? If you're just pumping for the day or a couple of days, let's say you're going away for the weekend and you pump and build up a little stash, but you're just leaving it in the refrigerator, right? Then you're going to tell whoever is watching baby, oh, use Friday's milk first, and then Saturday, and then Sunday. we do it that way. But if there is fresh milk available, that's the milk that baby gets first.
How long does milk last in the freezer?
That is the next thing. An easy way to remember, 6 hours at room temperature, right? So if you're just running out to the store, somebody's watching baby, you pump a fresh bottle, you can leave it on the counter in a nice room temperature, right? Not too hot. It's going to be about 4 to 6 hours at room temperature. In the refrigerator, in the back of the refrigerator, you never want to keep it on the door. In the back of the refrigerator, 6 days. In the freezer, 6 months. So 6 hours, 6 days in the refrigerator, 6 months in the freezer. And you can always find the most updated information on the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, about human milk. So they're always going to have the latest information. When you're going to give it to baby, I always say we're room temperature. So think you want the milk to be kind of room temperature, meaning that you don't have to overly heat it, right? So again, if it's on the counter, it's fine to give to baby. If it's in the refrigerator, but you know you're going to feed baby's going to be hungry in about an hour or so, just take it out of the refrigerator and leave it on the counter until it comes to room temperature, right? If, let's say, God bless the baby that loves a cold bottle, a cold one right from the fridge, right? but if your baby likes the room temperature, then, they're really hungry and you pull it from the refrigerator. The faucets, luckily in New York, are pretty hot. You just turn on the hot faucet and you kind of swirl it under the faucet. So you just kind of swirl it. You don't want to really shake it too hard, but you'll just kind of swirl it. Speaking of which, when you leave the milk, you're going to see the fat rise to the top, right? It's a living food, right? So you just want to swirl it. So even if it's on the counter, right, and you just want to kind of swirl it to bring everything back together, right? So, but again, if it's in the refrigerator, you take it out, hot water. When I would be out in restaurants with my daughter, I would just ask them, I have my little cooler, I just ask them to bring me a hot cup of water. I just put it in there for a little bit, it gets warm, and then that's it.
Okay. So I'm just thinking like a soup, if you freeze like a soup that has fat in it, the fat will get to the top.
Yeah.
If you look at frozen milk, is that the same?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you have to defrost, you think you're going to get home in time and you can't, your husband has to feed, can he put it into hot water like you would put frozen meat or something?
So again, turn on the faucet. And right, but if you're
boiling water, if you need to get it unfrozen quickly, I mean.
You would if you boil a pot, if you have the kettle, so pour it into a bowl and just sit it in the bowl. Okay. Yeah, so never, meaning that you don't want to put it on the stove and bring it to a boil.
Okay.
Right. So, but if you pour the boiling water into a bowl and then just put the bag into the bowl, that's fine as well. You never want to heat the actual milk, and obviously you never microwave. Never microwave anything. Never microwave anything. You're gonna, for milk wise, you kill all the good stuff, right? For human milk, and just for heat, right? Sometimes you get those hot pockets when you microwave stuff. You don't want to be feeding that to your baby. Right? You can burn them.
So the milk bags, the storage bags, they can handle being in boiling water.
Well, you're pouring it out. It's not going to be boiling. It'll be, I mean, if you pour, yes, the question is yes, they should answer that. But,
if you take it from the freezer, it's frozen, and then you throw it in some boiling water.
Well, you put the boiling water in a bowl, give it a second.
Right?
and then
it's okay.
It's
not going to melt plastic into the...
No.
I mean, yeah. That's a good point. I'm thinking of a situation where you think you'll be home, but something happens and someone needs to feed your baby from your stash, and it's too late for you to leave it on the counter because you didn't.
Well, if your water gets hot, your faucet gets really hot, and you take the bag out. So let's say you pour the boiling water into a bowl and you're waiting for it to kind of cool down a little bit. Take the bag and hold it under the warm water. You'll feel it start to pretty quickly to get warm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, but the bags are pretty durable as well. They're not gonna just melt.
Baby plastic.
Yeah. Speaking of the bags, again, So when you're using the oldest, how you know that is that you're gonna date it, right? So when you pour it into the bottle, from the bottle into the back, you want to date it. Sometimes even people time it, right? And put how much. So remember I said when you pump into the bottle, you know how much. You want to put that on the bottle because sometimes you'll pull a bag and you're like, oh, this is 6 ounces, but it's only 2 because somehow it expanded, right? So just put how much is on there. What else about heating, right? So again, CDC has all that information as well. You never refreeze, right? So if you take it out, to your point too, when you said like you're not going to make it home, if you know that, just tell somebody, or you can even leave a bag of frozen milk in the refrigerator, right? In case you're like, oh, I may not make it, and then you'll just when you take that bag out of the freezer, you do want to use it within like 24 to 48 hours. And you never refreeze milk. So once it's defrosted, don't refreeze.
Okay, so you can take it out of the freezer, put it into the fridge to defrost in there.
Yes, and that bag you're using within 24 to 48
Okay, so it does, the 6 rule doesn't apply if
No.
you've frozen the milk and put in the refrigerator.
Yes, yeah. Again, it's a lot of numbers, but
Yeah.
it's all accessible. Just remember CDC.
Yeah. Infographics too.
Yeah.
They make it easy to read.
Yeah, and even sometimes the pump companies will give you like a little guideline too to kind of go by. Yeah. Do we have any questions from the live? No? Okay. Just checking. So we're pumping, right? We're storing. Again, no need to pump, right? But when we're going back to work, obviously there's that need, right? So when you are away from baby, you want to pump, especially if your breasts are starting to feel firm, right? You want to release the milk, and obviously baby isn't there, so you're gonna do it by pumping. When you just go back to work, you're gonna have to figure out what works for you, right? Because when baby's there, there's no question. You start to get that feeling, they're probably going to be showing you signs of hunger too. You're gonna put them on. But when your baby's not there, you're gonna go by feel. Or if you're not feeling your breasts are getting full, you don't have that kind of full engorgement feeling, which is fine. Not all of us do. You do want to release milk every 3 to 4 hours. Right? You definitely don't want your breast to get engorged or rock hard. Obviously, that's not comfortable. But an engorged breast or rock hard breast tells the body to stop making milk. Right? So that's the other thing we get, where you get the perception that your milk supply has decreased, and not so much that it definitely will, but sometimes what it is that we're going longer between releasing milk from the body. And again, the body's smart. I don't need to release, so I'm going to slow down on that production. In order to keep up production, we have to keep removing milk from the body. So a drained breast is always going to want to refill, right? A breast that where the milk has nowhere to go, it's smart. It's going to start giving the body signals to slow down and stop production. So the perception of low milk supply usually comes, again, if I get this call, I'm going to say, what's going on? How often were we pumping? Were you getting engorged? So it's going to be either when you get back to that baby, feed that baby more to remove more milk, or you want to throw in another pumping session somewhere to tell the body to boost that supply a little bit. So again, when you go back to work, sometimes it's a matter of what's your schedule throughout the day. I usually say, if you can, put on your calendar an appointment with yourself, so that reminds you, and everyone else doesn't have to know. You just say, oh, I have a meeting I have to get to, right? And so you're able to go and pump. When you are going back to work, let it be known to your supervisor that you're coming back and you're a breastfeeding mom and you need to pump. You're going to be taking breaks, and you should have a space to pump. That should not be a bathroom. Right? If your supervisor doesn't know, then just call HR. Right? So they should know, and you are entitled to a space that is not a bathroom that you're able to pump and store. Well, They don't have to give you storage, but ideally, yes. But the cooler bags that you get, usually with your pumping for the ice packs, that's good for the day. So if you don't have access to a fridge and you just make sure that ice pack is frozen every night, you throw it in the bag, you put the bags or the bottle in that cooler pack, that's going to be good to get you home.
Logistics.
Yeah. Yes, figuring out. You want to know, like you mentioned, like you can't make it, you're not going to make it home. You kind of want to know, like, let's say, I'm going to make it home for that feed. You may want them to make baby wait for you. So don't give that bottle because my breast can't. My breast can't take it. So when you get home, you're putting baby on. Or if you have a really long commute, and it's going to be a couple hours and you're leaving work and your breasts are a little firm, you may want to pump right before you leave because you don't want to get stuck on a subway or a train or something with these engorged breasts. I was that woman leaking on the subway and knocked out and waking up. So it's logistics. It's kind of figuring out what your commute is and how you're going to get back to baby. What are we on time? Yeah, we can keep going. Do we have any other questions? Anything coming up?
I have another question. It's not about pumping, but more breastfeeding. I have a friend who just had a baby like a few weeks ago, and she was in the hospital and spoke to a lactation consultant, and they said something about her nipple was like flatter than most women, and she didn't understand why the baby wasn't latching, and she had to use kind of like a
nipple shield.
I don't know what it was, but basically, yeah. Could you just talk about that a bit briefly and how you would know that you need a nipple shield?
Yeah. Well, I am sorry. Tell your friend that I'm sorry that she heard that. And when I worked in the hospital, I would always tell the nurses, do not talk about women's body. Because now you have the perception that it's not working well. So our job as a lactation consultant is to come in and try to figure out why. So, like I was saying, sisters, not twins, right? We're all, there is no perfect nipple, whatever you see on the mannequins or the magazines. I've never seen the same breast, and I've seen them. Right? So, what happens, again, if I walked into that room, I want to know what's happening. Sometimes our nipples can flatten out if did she have a C-section by any chance?
No, she had an actual C-section.
Okay. So sometimes when we get a lot of fluids, right, just like anything we're swollen, it can go make the nipple away, right? But let's talk about hand expression. So I would, and I can show you in my little breast, right? The reason that it does this is because we use it as a teaching tool because right? Everyone has different breasts. So this is what would be representative of a flat nipple, right? Okay. But nipple stimulation is what everts our nipple. So even if we have kind of an erect nipple, when nipple gets stimulated, it can evert more, right? So that's the first thing I would do. So what you want to do, and you can do this when you go home too, start practicing, right? A little bit of hand expression. You're going to take your thumb and pointer finger, put it on the outsides of your areola, push back into your chest wall, and compress the tissue, right? The nipple doesn't really have that much to do in breastfeeding. I always say you never go to a nipple feeding class. You go to a breastfeeding class, right? Because the goal is to get the breast in baby's mouth. So I don't care about what your nipple looks like sometimes. So even if I walk into a room and I have a mom that has a flat nipple, I'm going to see if I can sandwich her breast. Do you see what's happening? Can you do that? So I can get the breast in baby's mouth. Because when baby gets on there and applies the suction, that nipple is going to pop out sometimes. There are some breasts that don't, right, evert, the nipples that don't evert that much. And then you have the baby, of course, that likes that everted nipple, right? So that's when the nipple shield comes in. It's a tool that helps us get baby on and maintain a latch. So again, some babies like it, and it's kind of like a bottle nipple that we can kind of put on. It's a plastic shield that has holes in it, so the milk can come out. But in my lactation expertise, I'll go ahead and say, a nipple shield is a tool to get the baby to latch well, but we should really be taking it away. So if she's still on that nipple shield, you want to have her ask a lactation consultant to help wean away from that shield. Again, that being said, like I said in the beginning, there are situations where sometimes you have babies that don't have the muscle tone to maintain that latch, even with an everted nipple. So those when nipple shields come. So anytime there's any tools coming into play, right, even the pump, right, you always want to check in with the lactation consultant to see, is this going to be part of my breastfeeding journey? And if, we meet and that's what it is, that's what it is. But, or is this a tool to help me get to a perfect latch for you and that baby? So you have, just like everything, you have different opinions on anything. My opinion, I don't love a nipple shield. My goal is to help you work on getting it weaned away, because it becomes kind of like a crutch. And you'll see again when you have baby and you're trying to latch baby, you gotta put this thing on. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. So yeah, or I would throw a pump on her and do the pump and increase the suction a little bit and see if that will pull out that nipple a little bit. And even though it's a vaginal, we're still a little swollen sometimes. Sometimes it's just the fluid that makes the nipple a little flat, right? Or you may have had a really sleepy baby that wasn't. So it's so many variables that you can't just say it's one thing. So, but yeah, I'm sorry that she heard that. So if anyone's talking, now you know, if anyone's talking about your breast or your body, they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, so for what else? Something came in hand expression. Let's go into a little bit more. So when you do start pumping as well, and again for certain situations, so my moms that have babies that go to the NICU, families that have babies that go to the NICU sometimes, and they're having to use the pump early, or if we have some reduction, or if we know that there may be something that can hinder milk production, I always recommend what we call hands-on pumping, which is using the pump, but while the pump is on, you want to do some massage. I remember when I was talking about engorgement, I said some areas of your breast. So we do get clogged ducts sometimes. Have you heard of that? Or plugged ducts. So a certain area of your breast, and I'll show you, those ducts are everywhere. Right? They start from under, they could be under a clavicle. If you start feeling like you're growing a breast under your armpit, we have mammary glands under there, right? So sometimes over here will get really swollen and uncomfortable and you can't. So you want to massage that area and move it forward towards the nipple, right? So, and again, sometimes you just may feel like, oh, that feels a little like a pea or walnut or something. Give it a massage. It's probably the duct a little bit backing up, right? So massage, and then while you're on the pump, you can do a little compression, right? And you'll start to see, it's fascinating, right? The little pores from your nipple, you'll press one place and you'll get an extra shot, extra little squirt, right? So you're doing 15 to 20 minutes, right? And then after you come off the pump, if you have time, especially in the beginning when you're practicing, sometimes when you're at work, it's hard to, but if you have the time to go in and massage your breast again and do some hand expression, because you may get out a little bit more. Because again, the pump is not great at getting everything out of the breast. Baby's the best way to drain the breast. Us doing some massage and hand expression. There's some people who, my friend hated pumping, and she would hand express and could fill up this whole bottle within like 8 minutes. Right? So it can happen. So, but if you massage, again, when you're at home and you're just starting out, after you do your about 15-20 minutes, go ahead and massage and do your hand expression, right? And you may get out another, again, this is just numbers, ounce or half an ounce, right? The more you drain your breast, the more signal it gives the body to refill that amount. So let's say, again, this is just numbers, you pump 3 ounces. But with hand expression, you can hand express out another ounce. That breast is gonna replenish 4 ounces, not just 3, right? So hands-on pumping is what we call it. Like I said, it's sometimes when you're at work and you're like, just getting to do this, and you're like, now I have to hand express. Sometimes it's a bit much, but.
Wow, that was a perfect segue. So for anyone who got here late, not late, you're perfectly on time. I'm with Lilu. We made the world's first hands-free pumping bra with built-in compression massage. So as LaShanda said, first thing is baby. Second thing is doing hand massage. But when you're at work or you have things to do, and you just can't be sitting there for 20 to 30 minutes or however long at a time massaging, that's where our bra comes into play. So this is a hands-free pumping bra that works with your pump. It works with all of the typical brands that LaShanda mentioned that are reimbursed by insurance. So it's not a pump itself, but it you put it on. It's got a little strap. You just would put it on like a regular bra, and there's a little controller in here that you turn on, and there's cushions inside the bra that fill with air, and they mimic the motions that are recommended. Like LaShanda said, they're built with these little pressure points that are supposed to mimic the hand massage to help you basically get massage, the benefits of breast massage hands-free. So that's kind of why we're here today, why we brought LaShanda to talk to you guys. We just launched this product. We're super excited about it. Sujay, our CTO over there, he is one of the designers of the product, the bra, and it is available now on Kickstarter. It'll be arriving in, the first batch will arrive in May, the second batch will be arriving in June, so you get to choose which delivery date you'd like if you want to back the project. It is 30% off when you back it on Kickstarter versus when it launches on our e-commerce site. So if you want to learn more about that, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask away right now, and online too. If you have any questions coming from the live stream, we're here to answer any questions you have about the bra or any more questions for LaShanda. Just fire away.
How much is it?
So right now on Kickstarter, it's available for $139. It'll be $199 when it launches on our website.
I'm sure you've heard about hands-free bras and people have been recommending. So the reason I came across Adriana,
our CEO,
was I thought it was an interesting concept because it kind of does the two in one.
So it's really nice if you need to be multitasking. Again, it's really kind of for anyone that needs to be. Maybe it's you are with your baby and you want to be holding your baby, but you need to be pumping, or you're at work and you need to be sending an email while you're in the wellness room or anything like that. So the way that you would put it on is you put it on like a regular bra. It has snaps in the back. It also, if you don't want to get fully undressed, for instance, if you had a button up, you could, Sujay will pass it around too if you guys want to see it. It has clasps to snap onto your nursing bra, so you could do this and then just go around here and not have to put the straps over. Once you get it on, you just slip your flanges through these holes like this. Just make sure they're in place. And then you press down this button for 3 seconds and it will turn on. And it works similar to a blood pressure cuff, kind of. It just fills with air and does that motion of like pressing, squeezing, and then releasing. And it has 2 adjustable settings, so there's a low and a high setting. And you just wear this while you're pumping. And we've had over 150 moms at this point who have used it while we've been designing it for the last couple of years, and we're just really super excited that it's finally going to be out there helping people. So, yeah, are there any other questions?
Any pumping questions? Anything you think I didn't?
Anyone online? Okay.
No questions. It's very thorough. I'm going to take that as very thorough.
We'll stick around for a few more minutes, but if you were visiting or joining us online, thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget, you can back us on Kickstarter, and have a good night.